Episode 7 of Queen Wu starts with a flashback to 6 years back, when the Xue and Eo family elders were killed and their chopped heads displayed in the capital. The He family orchestrated this to pressure the king to dethrone the queen. The king sent his soldiers to take Wu Dou and Wu Shou and bring them to the palace. Under Pasou's advice, he distanced himself from the queen and thought he was protecting her. Of course, this was all part of Pasou's plan to make the king lose favour among the 5 tribes. He continued to keep up appearances, playing chess with the queen and acting like a loyal advisor. Presently, he finally reads the queen's next move in their chess game and realises she is the girl who beat him in the national chess game when they were young. Her game plan was identical. Will this change his mind about the revenge? Later, he and his men burn the bodies of the eunuchs and notice a strange fire coming from the corpses. He takes a little elixir box he found on Sabi before he died. He throws one elixir into the fire and realises that these are made of mercury. These elixirs are the same ones that the faithful are popping like pills at the temple. It makes them euphoric and gives them hallucinations. Meanwhile, at Yunwu's fortress, Youjin tries to dissuade the 4th prince from marrying the queen and leaving for the capital. Yunwu insists on leaving and doing things his way. Simultaneously, Queen Wu sends someone to check the road and asks Mochi to keep an eye on Wu Sun. Wu Sun manages to sneak away under Mochi's watch and tries to get to the main gate. Fortunately, Queen Wu spots her and stops her before she lets in the white tigers. The sisters have a much needed confrontation to clear the air between them. Wu Sun admits to her crimes but tries to justify her greed. She claims that she deserved to be queen because she was the chosen one first. However, she wanted to marry the crown prince and refused to marry Go Namu. Anyway, they both draw out their bows and arrows at the same time, but Wu Sun misses. Queen Wu kills her sister and leaves her body at the fortress. The white tigers start getting anxious about the delay and assume Wu Sun has failed her mission. Elsewhere, the 5th prince, Gai Su, sends someone to find out what is happening among the 5 tribes. He is anxious as a lot of strange things have been happening and the palace has been quiet. On the other hand, Baoqi adorns his fancy robes and starts making plans with his entrusted man, Chang Hyung. Not being a patient man, Baoqi opts to head to the palace and capture the queen himself. At the palace, Wu Shou and Wu Dou get anxious about the queen's return. Wu Dou draws his sword and threatens Yol Pasou, but he calmly tells them that the queen is at Yunwu's fortress. At the fortress, Queen Wu learns that the white tigers are waiting in the forest. She refuses to stay locked inside as she needs to get back to the palace. Yunwu gets scared after learning there is an ambush waiting for them. Still, he chooses the queen and disregards Yeonjin's concerns. His shaman assures him that the gods will protect him, and this gives him some confidence. At the same time, Seolju gets a message that Yonwu is set to be the next king. For the past 30 years, she had been banned from stepping into the palace after being accused of inciting the former king. With Yonwu becoming a king through a levirate marriage, her chance to return is finally here. The faithful have been waiting for Sabi's prophecy to come true and they celebrate the joyful news with gusto. The queen decides to leave the fortress through all of this, hoping that Yol Pasou will take her side and come to their rescue when they reach the ferry dock. It was part of the message she sent him through the chess game. If Pasou fails to take her side and show up, they will die at the hands of the white tigers. The scene then cuts to Yol Pasou plotting his next move carefully. He weighs the pros and cons of every move and decides to save the queen. He believes they share the same dream for a new Goguryeo. At sundawn, the queen uses a distraction to lure the white tigers in the opposite direction. Mugol sacrifices himself to successfully pull off the ruse. He gives the queen and the rest of the team, including Yongwu and Yeonjin, a chance to make it to the dock. He later joins them after the white tigers realise they were tricked. However, they quickly catch up with the queen's entourage and launch a heavy attack. Things start to look bleak for the queen as they near the dock, with no sign of Yol Pasou. Just when they're about to be cornered, Pasou and the palace soldiers show up and help them. Another intense fight ensues, but the queen and her team safely make it to the boat. Even though Noyum is injured, he remains steadfast in his quest for revenge. He doubles back and attacks the fortress, and he takes Wu Sun's body. As the hour of Jin Shi draws by, an anxious atmosphere erupts in the palace. The officials start demanding an explanation while the Wu elders worry about the fate of the queen. Out of the blue, the queen makes a majestic entrance and informs everyone of the king's death. The officials are understandably shocked and demand to know how the king died. However, Daebu raises the question of who will be the next king. The queen introduces Yonwu and explains her intent to marry him. Some officials try to object, but she threatens to make them traitors, which certainly makes them be quiet. Baoqi makes a dramatic entrance in all this, opposing the marriage and stating his rights to the throne. He is shocked when Pasou says that Goguryeo laws recognise levirate marriages and Queen Wu has a right to choose her suitor. He draws out his sword and threatens to rebel. Chang Hyong advises him to leave the palace for the time being. On his way out, Balki kills a soldier to prove his point to the officials and the Queen. Everyone starts discussing who they should side with in this upcoming war between the Queen and Balki. The Queen tells her dad that Wu Sun was killed by the White Tigers, and he tells her why he burned the lilies. It turns out that the Queen was fond of the lilies of the valley because the King planted them for her. He said it reminded him of the dress she wore the first time they met. Looking back, the King was a true romantic and loved his wife very much. Wuso takes Wu Sun's death hard and tries to seek comfort from Wudo. However, his brother is more concerned about survival than mourning his niece. The two have an argument when Wuso brings up the girls as sacrifice, and Wudo reveals he castrated himself to avoid a power struggle in the family. After leaving the palace, Balki heads to the Crown Prince to seek his help. The Crown Prince kills Balki's soldiers for coming into his hideout cave. Once Balki informs him of Namu's passing, the Crown Prince is overjoyed and insists on reclaiming the throne. At the palace, Paso calls for a meeting with a few trusted people to talk about strategy and try to prevent the war. The Queen orders Mochi to lock Yonwoo and Yunjin in a room, and the episode ends with Queen Wu taking the king's seat at the meeting. By taking the king's seat in the way that she has at the war strategy meeting, Queen Wu is making it clear that she is the boss and she's in charge. She's not going to sit back and let the men make decisions for her anymore. It is a power move on her part, and of course, given what we know about her character, we certainly didn't expect anything less. It's about time she takes control of her life to save herself and the people around her. As we come towards the end of the show, it is evident that a war is going to be unavoidable. With Balki and the Crown Prince joining forces, the Queen will have a hard time in this war. She needs to quickly reach out to the other tribes and get their support. Surprisingly, she has not reached out to Guisu. Does she fear he will oppose this level 8 marriage too? It is also interesting though to see that Paso is playing on both sides. He wants to fight alongside the Queen, but only because it serves his purpose to destroy the Go family. If Yonwoo becomes the king, Xiaoju won't let Paso stay at the palace, so he needs to pick a side quickly and find a way to survive. And all of this sets everything up nicely for the finale to follow. Thanks for watching, and do let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Smash a like or subscribe to the channel, your support is very much appreciated. I'm Greg Wheeler, and from all of us over here at The Review Geek, we'll see you on the next video.